Thank you very much for taking the time, Nick. I appreciate that your training schedule has changed at short notice next week and you can no longer make the Leaders Forum, but we all really appreciate you doing this brief recording to sort of share your insights. I think probably the first thing that I was interested in was so we're talking about resilience, and in a company, one of the ways you get resilience is by not having just reliance on one person and giving you a little bit more depth. We were talking about Eddie Jones and what's coming up in the Six Nations, and also your position as defence coach at Harlequins, and sometimes when you're a bit thin on the ground. Just interested in that and how you kind of create that depth, resilience, by having other people that can rock up and take on somebody else's role.
Look, I mean, there's no substitute for experience in life, and the same goes for professional sport. Obviously, you know, when you chuck them out there, it's sort of a sink or swim moment, isn't it? And, you know, see whether they've got the capabilities, and then, you know, if they have, then you can work at the sort of psychological part of it, which is exactly what you're talking about, performing under pressure. In terms of the strength and depth, yeah, look, the way rugby is at the moment, every club has injuries. England are suffering with injuries. You know, actually, in my position, actually number 8, or my old position, I'm really struggling there. And what it is, you know, from a club environment point of view, is you've got to give a decent amount of reps to. So let's just say you've got 4 tiers of player in each position. You know, your first choice, you know, your number 1, then 2, then 3, then maybe your academy's number 4 is where you get undone, taking ability away, because clearly your more able player is going to be your number 1, you're less able at the current times number 4. Where you're going to come undone even more so is if those number 4s and number 3s don't get the required reps in. And that's something we've really addressed as a coaching group. You know, from a week-to-week basis, we know that the be-all and end-all, I'm afraid, with professional sport is here and now, and it's the next game, and you are judged by the next game. You know, the result does matter. And so therefore, a lot of your grass time, your time on the field, gets spent with the team that's going to take the field on the weekend. But of course, that team, half of that, well, not half of that team, but certainly a quarter of that team could be missing for the following week. And you then got to get new combinations in, guys doing reps, but you've got to also be aware that, you know, in a heavy duty position, let's just talk about the front row, for example. If you're asking a prop who perhaps hasn't been involved for about 4 weeks, then he might be on the bench for a couple of games, only gets 10 minutes here or there. He doesn't do a majority of the scrums in the week, but then suddenly your two other props go down injured, and he's got his workload and volume of work increases so much that actually what you're doing is you're putting more pressure on him. You're putting more pressure on him in terms of his body to recover. And, you know, you're certainly, you know, looking at, you know, a possible injury there because he's just not had the stress on his body to be able to cope with it. But also, you know, he's going to be very, very rusty because he's not been given the reps. And, you know, you can attribute that to all sorts of positions. A number 10, you know, a game organizer, you know, it's no good, you know, when you're training, having 2 teams playing against each other and it's just your 2 starting 10s, if that guy's not getting many reps. And it's getting that balance because you are aware, of course, of the volume of training and the grass time. And it's a very complicated process. It's a very complicated process because, as I say, you know, you're looking at the short term most of the time.